They thought her baby would never live, until the Navajo mother proved them all wrong. Growing up in her small Navajo community, she had watched her sisters, cousins, and friends care for their children with love, patience, and pride. She knew the joy that a child could bring, the laughter, the first steps, the endless questions, and the tiny hands that could make her heart swell with happiness. But now, as she approached the final months of her first pregnancy, she felt a mixture of excitement and fear. This was her first child, and while she was filled with hope, she could not ignore the whispers of worry that lingered in the back of her mind. Her pregnancy had not been easy. From early on, Ahiana experienced complications that left her exhausted and anxious. Simple daily tasks became challenging, and she often found herself resting more than she wanted. Her body ached in new and unfamiliar ways, and she worried constantly about whether her baby would be healthy. The local clinic was helpful, but resources were limited. Doctors monitored her closely, running tests and offering advice, yet there was a shadow of uncertainty that followed her at every appointment. Despite this, Ahiana refused to let fear dominate her. She turned to the traditions she had grown up with, the Navajo teachings that spoke of balance, healing, and the strength found in family and community. She sought comfort in the prayers her mother had taught her, softly chanting in the evenings as the sun set over the wide desert landscape. The chants reminded her that life was fragile but resilient, that hope could flourish even in the face of doubt. With every word she whispered to the wind, she felt a small spark of courage growing inside her, a reminder that she was not alone. When the day finally came, Ahiana was overwhelmed by a mix of excitement and nervousness. Labor was long and difficult. She gripped her mother's hands tightly as the pain surged through her body, focusing on the small comforts around her, the steady presence of her family, the calming words of the midwife, the quiet rhythm of her own breathing. Hours passed, each one feeling longer than the last, until at last, the first cries of her baby echoed through the delivery room. But the joy was quickly tempered by concern. The doctors immediately took the tiny newborn in their arms, noting that the baby was premature and fragile. Ahiana felt her heart tighten in fear as they warned her that the child might not survive the night. In those first moments, Ahiana's world felt suspended between hope and despair. The room around her was filled with machines, beeping softly, and the quiet murmurs of medical staff. She watched as the nurses carefully placed her baby into an incubator, monitoring every small movement and sound. She could hardly believe the tiny creature before her was her child, so small and vulnerable, yet already a part of her in every possible way. She wanted to hold the baby, to cradle them in her arms and whisper words of love, but the doctors insisted on strict precautions to ensure survival. The restrictions were difficult, but Ahiana understood their purpose. Even though the doctor's words were heavy with caution, Ahiana refused to let despair take hold. She sat beside the incubator for hours, speaking to her child, softly repeating their name and sharing stories of the life they would one day know. She sang lullabies she had learned as a child, her voice trembling but determined. Every day, she returned to the hospital, dedicating herself fully to the fragile life before her. Her presence was a constant reassurance to the baby, and slowly she began to notice subtle signs of response, a tiny flutter of fingers, a faint eye movement, a soft whimper. Each small sign was a victory, a promise that life, though fragile, was fighting back. Ahiana's family rallied around her during this time. Her mother, sisters, and cousins took turns keeping her company, offering meals, encouragement, and prayers. They shared stories of resilience and survival, reminding Ahiana that strength could be found in both community and spirit. The elders of the community also offered guidance, performing small ceremonies that honored life and asked for protection over the newborn. These rituals were simple but powerful, filling Ahiana with a sense of connection to generations of mothers who had faced their own challenges and triumphed. While the hospital staff focused on medical care, Ahiana focused on love and presence. She learned everything she could about the special needs of a premature infant, the importance of warmth, gentle touch, feeding schedules, and constant observation. She became meticulous in her care, tracking every detail, celebrating even the smallest accomplishments. When the baby managed to take their first bottle, Ahiana cried tears of relief and joy. When the baby's breathing stabilized after a particularly difficult night, she felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Every day was a battle, but also a testament to the determination of both mother and child. Outside the hospital, life in the Navajo community continued. The wide open spaces, the red earth, and the endless sky were constant reminders of nature's strength and beauty. Ahiana often drew inspiration from the land around her, finding peace in its stillness and resilience. She imagined walking with her child in the desert, showing them the sacred places of her heritage, teaching them the songs and stories that had been passed down for generations. These dreams, small and fragile as they were, gave her the motivation to keep fighting, to remain patient and hopeful even when the nights were long and the days exhausting. As the weeks went by, Ahiana's baby showed signs of progress. It was slow, measured, and sometimes uncertain, but each step forward was celebrated. Nurses began to notice her dedication and the effect it had on her child's health. They admired her knowledge, her patience, and her unwavering love. Ahiana's determination became a quiet inspiration within the hospital walls, a reminder to others that medical expertise and human devotion could work together to create miracles. Despite the challenges, Ahiana never allowed herself to be consumed by fear. She reminded herself daily that every child's journey was unique, that survival was not guaranteed, but that hope and perseverance could make a difference. She learned to balance caution with optimism, listening to the advice of medical professionals while trusting her instincts as a mother. She often whispered words of encouragement to the tiny life in the incubator, promising protection, love, and a future full of possibilities. The nights were often the hardest. Alone in the quiet hospital room, Ahiana would sometimes sit for hours, holding her child's hand through the incubator glass, talking softly about dreams of the life they would share. She pictured first steps, first words, the laughter and tears that were yet to come. Though she knew the road ahead was uncertain, she refused to let doubt overtake her love. Her spirit remained unshaken, a constant flame of hope burning brightly in the face of fear. Friends from the community would visit when they could, offering gifts of blankets, tiny clothes, and handmade toys. Each gesture, no matter how small, reminded Ahiana that she was not alone. The support of her community, coupled with the guidance of her family, strengthened her resolve. She learned that motherhood was not only about the bond between parent and child, but also about the network of love, care, and encouragement that surrounded them both. As days turned into weeks, the fragile beginnings of life began to show promise. Every new sign of growth, every slight improvement in health, was a cause for quiet celebration. Ahiana recorded each milestone in a small notebook, writing down the baby's weight, feeding times, and first reactions. She took pride in these small details, understanding that survival was built on patience, attention, and love. Each entry in the notebook was a reminder that life, even when it begins against the odds, could flourish with care and determination. By the end of the first month, Ahiana's baby was no longer the fragile, uncertain infant the doctors had feared might not survive. There were still challenges, still moments of worry, but the foundation of hope had been firmly established. Ahiana had proven to herself and to those around her that love and perseverance could overcome even the harshest predictions. The journey had only just begun, but the first chapter of their story was one of courage, strength, an unwavering belief in the power of life. Ahiana's bond with her child was already unbreakable. Every touch, every word, every moment spent by the incubator strengthened the connection between them. She had learned that being a mother was about more than just providing physical care. It was about emotional presence, resilience, and the willingness to fight for a life that seemed fragile. Her determination would become the guiding force for the weeks and months ahead, a testament to the strength of a mother's love and the power of hope in the face of adversity. Ahiana's days at the hospital became a rhythm of hope, care, and determination. Every morning, she woke before sunrise, her heart heavy with worry yet full of determination. She dressed quietly, careful not to disturb her family who were still asleep in the small room her mother had rented near the hospital. Each day was a delicate balance. She had to care for herself, maintain her own strength, and dedicate herself fully to her fragile baby, Nijoni. The days were long and exhausting, but Ahiana refused to let fatigue weaken her resolve. She knew that her presence, her love, and her dedication were just as important as the medical care her child received. She spent hours by Nijoni's side, speaking softly, singing, and gently stroking her tiny hands through the incubator. The nurses initially found her presence unusual, but soon they recognized its value. Ahiana had an intuitive understanding of her baby's needs. She learned to recognize the subtle movements and sounds that indicated hunger, discomfort, or fatigue. When Nijoni's breathing became slightly irregular, Ahiana stayed calm, following the guidance of the doctors while providing the comfort only a mother could give. Slowly, her confidence grew, and the nurses began to rely on her observations as well. She was becoming not just a mother but a partner in her child's care. Ahiana drew strength from the traditions of her Navajo heritage. Even in the sterile hospital environment, she found ways to incorporate the rituals and practices that had been passed down through generations. She placed small stones, symbols of protection, near the incubator. She recited prayers she had learned from her grandmother, invoking blessings for strength, health, and resilience. Each evening, when the sun painted the sky with shades of orange and pink over the desert landscape, she whispered stories of her family, her ancestors, and the lands they had loved. She believed that these stories, full of courage and endurance, would reach Nijoni even now, nurturing her spirit alongside her fragile body. The days were not without setbacks. Premature infants are delicate, and Nijoni faced numerous challenges. There were nights when her tiny body struggled to regulate temperature, nights when her breathing faltered, and moments when her feeding was interrupted by exhaustion or illness. Each setback brought anxiety and fear, yet Ahiana refused to succumb to despair. Instead, she focused on the small victories, an extra ounce gained, a longer stretch of stable breathing, the tiniest smile or movement. She learned to celebrate even the smallest signs of progress, understanding that each step forward, however minor, was a triumph. Ahiana's family played an essential role in her journey. Her mother stayed by her side as often as possible, holding her hand, offering words of encouragement, and helping her maintain perspective. Her sisters brought meals, washed clothes, and shared stories to lighten the heavy atmosphere of the hospital. The entire community seemed to rally around her, offering support that went beyond physical assistance. Elders visited with prayers and blessings, neighbors called to offer encouragement, and friends sent messages of hope. Ahiana felt the warmth of this collective love, realizing that the strength of a mother is magnified by the support of her community. One of Ahiana's greatest sources of motivation was the belief that her love could make a difference. She refused to let the hospital's clinical environment replace the warmth of family and tradition. She read stories aloud to Nijoni, sang lullabies her mother had sung to her, and whispered words of love and encouragement throughout the day. When the baby cried or seemed restless, Ahiana's gentle voice and touch were a source of comfort. She learned to interpret each movement, each small sound, understanding her child in ways that went beyond medical charts and monitors. Her bond with Nijoni deepened with every passing day, and with it grew her confidence and determination. Ahiana also became deeply involved in understanding the medical aspects of her child's care. She asked questions, took notes, and learned from the nurses and doctors. She studied the equipment, the monitors, and the routines required for a premature infant's survival. She learned to change diapers carefully, prepare bottles precisely, and observe Nijoni's reactions to different interventions. Her diligence earned the respect of the hospital staff, many of whom marveled at her ability to combine cultural practices, emotional care, and scientific understanding. Ahiana had become a crucial part of her baby's survival team, proving that a mother's love can complement even the most advanced medical care. Despite the progress, there were moments of profound fear. Some nights, Nijoni's condition worsened unexpectedly, and Ahiana felt a cold wave of panic. She held her child's hand through the incubator glass, praying silently, willing her baby to hold on. She remembered the teachings of her elders, to remain calm, to focus on what could be done, and to place trust in both spiritual guidance and practical action. These lessons helped her navigate the most difficult moments, giving her the courage to continue, even when hope felt fragile. Her ability to remain steady in the face of uncertainty became one of her greatest strengths. The relationship between mother and child was also a source of inspiration for others. Nurses and doctors who observed Ahiana's devotion began to recognize the profound impact of her presence. They saw that her love, patience, and attention could encourage Nijoni in ways that machines and medication alone could not. They began to involve Ahiana more closely in decision-making, seeking her insights on feeding, comfort, and emotional support. Her dedication demonstrated that survival is not only about medical intervention, it is also about the emotional and spiritual environment a child grows in. Ahiana's quiet determination became a model for other parents, showing them the importance of hope, care, and advocacy. Outside the hospital, Ahiana found comfort in the world she had grown up in. She drew inspiration from the desert, the mountains, and the wide sky above her community. These landscapes reminded her of resilience, the way plants and animals survived in harsh conditions, the way life could adapt and thrive even in difficult circumstances. She imagined walking with Nijoni in the desert one day, teaching her about sacred places, traditional songs, and the stories of their ancestors. These visions, though distant, filled her with hope and strengthened her resolve to protect her child. Every day was a small victory. When Nijoni took a full bottle, Ahiana celebrated quietly but joyfully. When she held her child for the first time outside the incubator, Ahiana felt a surge of love and gratitude she had never known before. These milestones, though simple, were monumental in the journey of a premature infant. Ahiana learned to cherish each moment, to find joy even in the smallest progress. She realized that survival was a collection of small steps, each supported by love, patience, and perseverance. Ahiana also discovered the importance of emotional resilience. She allowed herself to feel fear, sadness, and exhaustion, but she never let these emotions dominate her actions. She learned to transform anxiety into careful observation, worry into preparation, and doubt into determination. She wrote in a small journal, recording Nijoni's progress, her feelings, and her reflections. These writings became a source of strength, helping her track not just physical milestones but the emotional journey of motherhood. They reminded her that hope is not passive, it is active, expressed through love, attention, and unwavering commitment. As the weeks passed, Nijoni began to gain strength. Her tiny body, once so fragile, started to respond to care and love. The once ominous warnings of doctors began to shift as progress became evident. Every improvement, no matter how small, felt miraculous. Ahiana celebrated these victories privately and with her family, understanding that each step forward was a triumph over fear and doubt. Her devotion, patience, and persistence were paying off, and Nijoni's survival seemed more possible with each passing day. By the end of the second month, the hospital staff could see the remarkable transformation. Nijoni was still delicate, but her resilience was growing, and Ahiana's efforts had been central to this progress. Her story became one of quiet inspiration, a testament to the power of love, hope, and dedication. Ahiana had shown that even when the odds seem impossible, the combination of medical care, cultural strength, and unwavering maternal love can create miracles. She had learned that survival is not just a matter of biology, it is also a matter of spirit, determination, and community support. Through all the challenges, Ahiana remained steadfast. She learned that being a mother meant more than providing care. It meant advocating for her child, understanding their needs, and never losing hope. She became a source of strength not only for Nijoni, but for everyone around her, embodying the resilience and courage that had been passed down through generations of Navajo mothers. Her story, though still unfolding, was already a powerful example of the strength of the human spirit, the importance of community, and the profound bond between a mother and her child. Ahiana had come to understand that each day with Nijoni was a battle and a blessing at the same time. As the baby grew stronger, the challenges evolved, but so did Ahiana's confidence. She had learned to anticipate needs, to read the subtle cues that a premature infant gave, and to balance medical advice with the gentle instincts of a mother's love. Her bond with Nijoni had deepened beyond words. Every small smile, every flutter of tiny fingers, and every successful feeding was a victory that filled her heart with pride. Ahiana understood that progress might be slow, but each day brought hope and a step closer to the life she dreamed of for her child. The hospital days were long and often exhausting. Ahiana spent hours observing monitors, noting each tiny improvement in breathing, heart rate, and weight gain. She learned how to help Nijoni maintain body warmth, how to soothe her when discomfort arose, and how to stimulate growth in ways recommended by the medical staff. The nurses guided her, showing her techniques for holding and feeding a premature baby, but it was Ahiana's devotion that made the difference. She developed a quiet rhythm with her child, a pattern of care that blended medical knowledge with maternal intuition. Despite the steady improvements, there were days filled with setbacks. Occasionally, Nijoni's health faltered, her breathing became irregular, or she refused to eat. These moments brought fear and anxiety, yet Ahiana refused to give in to despair. She would quietly whisper encouragement, stroke her baby's tiny head, and offer soothing songs and prayers from her Navajo heritage. The elders had taught her that patience and persistence could work alongside faith and medicine. Ahiana clung to these lessons, using them to remain calm and focused, even when fear threatened to overwhelm her. Ahiana's family continued to play a vital role during this time. Her mother, sisters, and cousins would often take shifts sitting by Nijoni's side, offering prayers, gentle encouragement, and practical support. They brought meals and blankets, and sometimes, simply their presence was enough to provide comfort to both mother and child. The larger community also became involved, sending messages of hope, small handmade gifts, and traditional charms to protect and bless the newborn. These gestures, simple as they seemed, strengthened Ahiana's resolve. She realized that she was not alone in her journey. She was supported by generations of ancestors, her family, and the wider Navajo community. One of the most important lessons Ahiana learned was the power of routine. Premature babies thrive on consistency, and she carefully established a schedule for feeding, sleeping, and gentle interaction. Every day, she followed the routine with devotion, carefully recording observations about Nijoni's progress. She noted the smallest details: the amount of milk taken, the number of times Nijoni opened her eyes, tiny twitches of her hands and feet, and even the subtle changes in her expressions. These observations helped Ahiana understand the baby's needs more deeply and allowed her to respond promptly. Over time, she became so attuned to Nijoni's needs that even the nurses noticed her remarkable awareness. Medical care was, of course, essential. Ahiana worked closely with the doctors to ensure Nijoni received the treatment she needed. The child faced occasional infections, requiring medications and careful monitoring. Ahiana learned to administer these medications accurately and to recognize signs of illness before they became critical. She was meticulous in following medical advice, yet she always added the personal touch of love, comfort, and emotional support that no medication could provide. Her dedication impressed the hospital staff, many of whom had seen parents struggle to maintain patience and focus under such pressure. The days in the hospital were long, but Ahiana found small moments of joy and connection that made them meaningful. She read to Nijoni from books her grandmother had given her, telling stories of courage, family, and tradition. She sang lullabies she had learned as a child, her voice soft and melodic, sometimes joined by the gentle humming of her mother. Even the smallest interactions, like stroking Nijoni's tiny hands or simply talking to her, were essential for bonding. Ahiana believed that this emotional connection was as vital as the medical care, helping her child feel safe, loved, and secure in a world that was still overwhelming and fragile. As Nijoni grew stronger, Ahiana began to notice subtle personality traits emerging. The baby was alert, curious, and responsive to touch and sound. Small smiles and coos became more frequent, filling Ahiana's heart with pride and gratitude. These moments were reminders that, despite the struggles, life could flourish with care and patience. Ahiana documented every milestone, from the first successful feeding to the first tiny movement of hands and feet. Each accomplishment, no matter how small, was a testament to the resilience of her child and the power of her unwavering dedication. There were also moments of challenge that tested Ahiana's patience and strength. Premature infants often have difficulty regulating their emotions and physical responses, and Nijoni was no exception. There were times when she cried inconsolably, or when minor illnesses disrupted progress. Ahiana learned to remain calm during these episodes, drawing on both her cultural teachings and the guidance of the medical staff. She practiced deep breathing, quiet prayer, and focused attention, reminding herself that every obstacle was part of the journey and that her love could provide comfort even in the most difficult moments. Through it all, Ahiana's connection with Nijoni grew stronger. She learned to read the baby's subtle signals: when she was tired, when she needed comfort, when she was ready to feed. This understanding created a rhythm, a quiet communication between mother and child that was both powerful and sustaining. Ahiana often found herself smiling quietly at the small gestures of recognition from Nijoni, a tiny hand reaching toward her or a soft coo that seemed to say, "I know you are here, and I trust you." These moments reinforced Ahiana's belief in the importance of emotional connection alongside physical care. Ahiana also recognized the value of community in nurturing life. The hospital staff, initially focused solely on medical intervention, began to see the difference a devoted parent could make. They observed how Nijoni responded to her mother's presence, how she calmed and thrived with Ahiana nearby. The nurses began to involve Ahiana more actively in care decisions, seeking her input on feeding, comfort, and small adjustments in routines. Ahiana's devotion became a quiet inspiration, demonstrating that the partnership between family and medical staff could enhance the well-being of even the most fragile infants. In addition to medical care and routine, Ahiana emphasized cultural continuity. She introduced small traditions from her Navajo heritage into Nijoni's early life, believing that they would foster a sense of identity, resilience, and connection. She placed symbolic items, like small stones and woven charms, near the incubator, and whispered traditional blessings daily. She imagined Nijoni growing up learning these traditions, and she believed that this connection to heritage would give her child strength and guidance in the years to come. Even in the sterile environment of the hospital, Ahiana found ways to honor the past and incorporate the wisdom of generations. Gradually, Nijoni's health began to improve in measurable ways. She gained weight steadily, her breathing stabilized, and she became more active and alert. Each day brought new progress, small victories that were celebrated with quiet joy and relief. Ahiana felt a growing sense of confidence, realizing that the combination of medical care, cultural guidance, and maternal love was producing tangible results. She knew the journey was far from over, but each step forward reinforced the belief that life, nurtured with care and patience, could overcome the most difficult beginnings. Ahiana's determination also created ripples beyond her own experience. Other parents in the hospital began to notice her devotion, and some were inspired to spend more time and attention with their own children. Nurses shared her story as an example of the positive impact of parental involvement, and doctors began to encourage family participation more actively. Ahiana's quiet resilience had become a source of hope and motivation, showing that love and dedication could influence not only individual outcomes, but also the culture of care in the hospital. Despite the challenges and long hours, Ahiana found moments of peace and inspiration. She looked forward to the day when Nijoni would leave the hospital, imagining walks in the desert, visits to sacred places, and the joy of introducing her child to the wider world. These dreams kept her focused, reminding her that every act of care, every hour spent nurturing her baby, was a step toward the life they both deserved. She understood that motherhood was a journey of patience, love, and unwavering commitment, and she embraced it fully, knowing that her dedication was shaping the future for her child in ways both visible and unseen. By the end of this period, Nijoni had transformed from a fragile, uncertain infant into a baby who responded to care, affection, and attention. The doctors began to acknowledge the remarkable progress, praising Ahiana's dedication and highlighting the importance of her involvement in the child's care. Ahiana had become a partner, an advocate, and a steady source of comfort and love. The bond between mother and child had grown into something unbreakable, a testament to the power of perseverance, hope, and the nurturing force of a parent's love. Ahiana knew that challenges would continue, but she also understood the importance of celebrating each achievement and remaining steadfast in the face of uncertainty. Nijoni's progress was a reflection of resilience, care, and the enduring strength of a mother's heart. Ahiana had proven that even the most fragile beginnings could grow into life and vitality when nurtured with patience, dedication, and unwavering love. She had learned that motherhood was not only about providing care, but also about offering hope, comfort, and connection, lessons that would guide her for the rest of her child's life. As Nijoni grew stronger, Ahiana began to realize the profound role her community played in the journey of her child's survival. While her love, care, and patience had been essential, she understood that no one thrives in isolation. The Navajo community, with its traditions, wisdom, and collective spirit, had surrounded her family with support that went beyond physical help. Elders offered prayers and guidance, neighbors checked in with warm smiles and small gifts, and relatives took turns helping her manage the daily challenges of life in and around the hospital. Ahiana learned that survival was not just an individual struggle, it was a shared effort, strengthened by collective care and compassion. Every morning, as the sun rose over the desert, Ahiana felt a renewed sense of purpose. She arrived at the hospital with a quiet determination, ready to face whatever challenges the day might bring. Nijoni's care required constant attention, monitoring feeding schedules, tracking weight and vital signs, and responding to the subtle signs of distress. Ahiana had become highly skilled in reading Nijoni's movements, breathing patterns, and even the faintest facial expressions. She had developed an almost instinctive understanding of her child's needs, which complemented the medical care provided by the hospital staff. Despite the steady progress, there were moments of uncertainty that tested Ahiana's resilience. Premature infants often face sudden complications, and Nijoni experienced episodes where her heart rate fluctuated or her breathing became irregular. During these times, fear gripped Ahiana's heart, yet she remained composed. She had learned the importance of remaining calm, both for her own sake and for Nijoni's. Her hands would rest gently on her baby's tiny body through the incubator glass, her voice soft with encouragement, and her prayers constant. She believed that love and calm energy could complement medical treatment, creating a nurturing environment where her baby could thrive. Ahiana's family continued to be an unwavering source of support. Her mother stayed close by, offering wisdom and comfort drawn from years of experience. Her sisters took turns helping with daily routines, providing meals, washing clothes, and simply being present. The broader community contributed in ways both tangible and intangible. Neighbors sent comforting messages, friends provided small handmade items, and elders shared prayers and blessings. Ahiana felt a deep sense of gratitude for this network of care, understanding that the strength of the community amplified her own efforts. She realized that the journey of raising a child, especially one with such fragile beginnings, was not hers alone. It belonged to everyone who loved and supported her. As the weeks turned into months, Nijoni's growth became more evident. She gained weight steadily, her muscles strengthened, and she began to respond more actively to her environment. Her tiny hands would reach toward Ahiana, grasping instinctively, and her eyes would follow movements around her. Each milestone, no matter how small, was a celebration. Ahiana documented every detail, from the first time Nijoni lifted her head to the first successful bottle feeding. She understood that these moments were not just indicators of physical growth, they were signs of resilience, courage, and the impact of unwavering love and care. In addition to physical milestones, Ahiana emphasized emotional connection. She continued to read stories aloud, share songs from her heritage, and speak to Nijoni about the world they would explore together. She imagined the baby growing up surrounded by the traditions and values of their community, learning about the sacred lands, the songs, and the stories passed down through generations. These practices, though simple, provided a sense of identity and continuity, reinforcing the belief that nurturing a child encompasses both body and spirit. Ahiana's love was holistic, combining modern medical care with the wisdom of her culture. The hospital staff noticed the remarkable progress and dedication. Nurses and doctors began to involve Ahiana more closely in care routines, seeking her insight on feeding schedules, comfort techniques, and the baby's subtle responses. They recognized that her presence and consistent care were crucial to Nijoni's development. Ahiana became a model for other parents in the hospital, demonstrating how attentive, patient, and culturally connected parenting could positively influence a child's outcomes. Her journey illustrated that medicine and love together created the most powerful environment for healing and growth. Ahiana also discovered the value of patience during these months. There were days when Nijoni's progress seemed slow or uneven. Minor illnesses, feeding difficulties, and bouts of irritability tested Ahiana's resolve. Yet she had learned to celebrate small victories and maintain faith in the process. She understood that growth, especially for a premature infant, was not linear. Each challenge was an opportunity to adapt, learn, and respond with care. This perspective allowed Ahiana to remain calm, focused, and loving, even when the situation seemed uncertain. One of the most powerful lessons Ahiana absorbed during this period was the importance of consistency. Premature infants rely on stability and routine, and she meticulously maintained schedules for feeding, sleeping, and gentle interaction. She observed Nijoni's responses carefully, adjusting her approach when needed, and documenting progress with attention to detail. This combination of love, structure, and attentiveness created an environment where Nijoni could thrive. Ahiana realized that her dedication had become a lifeline for her child, shaping not only her baby's health, but also her confidence as a mother. The bond between mother and child deepened daily. Ahiana found herself observing Nijoni's subtle reactions, the way she turned her head toward her voice, the slight curl of her fingers, the tiny movements of her feet. Each gesture reinforced the understanding that her presence mattered immensely. She spoke softly, sang lullabies, and whispered prayers, believing that this constant attention would provide both comfort and strength. The connection they shared was profound, a silent communication that transcended words and filled both their hearts with reassurance and love. The support of the community continued to play a vital role. Elders offered guidance on how to nurture both physical and emotional well-being. Friends visited to provide meals, encouragement, and small tokens of love. Even the smallest gestures made a difference, reminding Ahiana that she was part of a larger circle of care and support. She began to see the hospital environment not as isolating, but as a space where the values of her community could coexist with modern medicine. The combination of cultural wisdom, community strength, and medical expertise created a powerful foundation for Nijoni's continued growth. Through these months, Ahiana also began to teach the hospital staff about the significance of her traditions. She explained the meaning behind prayers, songs, and symbolic objects, showing how these practices provided comfort and a sense of stability. The staff observed how Nijoni responded positively to these rituals, demonstrating that cultural practices could harmonize with medical care to create a nurturing environment. Ahiana's presence became more than caregiving. It became a bridge between generations, cultures, and knowledge systems, proving that holistic care is essential for the well-being of both child and family. As Nijoni's strength grew, Ahiana envisioned the future more clearly. She imagined taking her baby home, exploring the desert, and sharing the traditions and teachings that had guided her family for generations. She dreamed of teaching Nijoni about the sacred lands, the songs of their ancestors, and the stories that shaped their identity. These visions motivated her to continue her efforts with unwavering determination. Every small milestone achieved reinforced the belief that perseverance, love, and community support could transform even the most fragile beginnings into a life full of possibility. The months of care were not without challenges, yet each trial strengthened Ahiana's resolve. She learned to navigate moments of doubt and fear with patience and grace. Minor setbacks, such as temporary illnesses or disruptions in feeding, were met with calm, deliberate action. Ahiana relied on her instincts, the advice of medical professionals, and the guidance of her elders. She discovered that nurturing a child is not just about immediate survival, but about cultivating an environment where growth, confidence, and resilience can flourish. By the end of this period, Nijoni had achieved remarkable progress. She gained weight steadily, her reflexes became more coordinated, and she began to show curiosity and engagement with her surroundings. Each day brought small, meaningful victories that filled Ahiana with gratitude and joy. The journey was far from over, but the foundation for a healthy, thriving child had been firmly established. Ahiana's love, dedication, and integration of cultural and medical care had created the conditions for success, illustrating the profound impact a mother's devotion can have on her child's life. Through all these experiences, Ahiana also grew as a mother. She learned to balance hope and caution, to combine patience with action, and to integrate the wisdom of her heritage with modern practices. She understood that motherhood is a continuous learning process, requiring adaptability, observation, and unwavering commitment. Each challenge, each victory, and each moment of connection deepened her understanding of what it means to nurture, protect, and love a child unconditionally. Ahiana's story had begun to inspire others in her community and beyond. Parents in similar situations observed her devotion and learned from her methods, recognizing the importance of active involvement, emotional connection, and cultural continuity. Nurses and doctors shared her example with families facing similar challenges, highlighting how love, patience, and community support can complement medical care to create miracles. Ahiana's journey had become not only a testament to her child's resilience, but also a symbol of hope for countless families navigating difficult beginnings. As she continued to care for Nijoni, Ahiana remained focused on the future while embracing each day fully. She celebrated every milestone, no matter how small, and treated setbacks as opportunities to learn and adapt. Her love, patience, and dedication created an environment where Nijoni could thrive physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Ahiana's journey showed that survival is not simply a matter of medicine. It is the result of care, connection, and the unwavering belief that every life is precious and capable of flourishing. By the time Nijoni had reached several months of age, the transformation was remarkable. From a fragile, uncertain infant, she had grown into a vibrant baby, responsive to the world around her. Every small milestone achieved felt like a miracle, a testament to the tireless love, dedication, and patience of her mother, Ahiana. Those early days of fear and uncertainty now seemed distant, replaced by hope, joy, and the excitement of watching Nijoni develop her own personality. The doctors who had once doubted her survival now smiled at her progress, praising both the baby's resilience and the mother's unwavering care. Ahiana had learned that triumph did not arrive suddenly. It was built moment by moment, with care, encouragement, and perseverance. She had spent countless nights by Nijoni's side, soothing cries, adjusting feeding schedules, and observing subtle changes in the baby's health. She had celebrated every small gain, from the first time Nijoni opened her eyes in recognition, to her first successful grasp of a finger. Each of these moments reinforced Ahiana's belief that love, patience, and determination could indeed create miracles. Her heart swelled with pride as she watched her child grow stronger, proving to everyone that hope could survive even the most difficult beginnings. The bond between mother and child had deepened in ways that words could barely capture. Ahiana had learned to understand Nijoni without needing explanations. She could sense discomfort, hunger, or curiosity through the tiniest gestures. She continued to sing songs from her Navajo heritage, recite prayers, and whisper stories from generations past. Nijoni responded to these moments, cooing, moving, and sometimes even smiling in recognition. Ahiana believed that these cultural rituals were shaping her child's spirit, grounding her in the strength and wisdom of their ancestors while nurturing her physical development. Ahiana's dedication continued to inspire those around her. Nurses and doctors who had initially seen her simply as a concerned parent now regarded her as an essential part of Nijoni's care team. They admired her knowledge, patience, and understanding of her child. Other parents in the hospital watched Ahiana's daily routines, learning the importance of presence, observation, and emotional connection. The hospital, once a place of fear and uncertainty, had become a space of hope, where the power of a mother's love was clearly visible and deeply respected. As Njoni's health stabilized, Ahiana began preparing for the next stage, bringing her baby home. The thought was both thrilling and daunting. Home meant freedom, comfort, and the warmth of family life, but it also meant taking full responsibility for a fragile infant without the constant supervision of medical staff. Ahiana approached this step with the same careful attention she had applied in the hospital. She prepared the home, ensured she had all necessary supplies, and continued to seek guidance from both doctors and elders. She knew that the journey ahead would require vigilance, but she was ready to face it with confidence, strengthened by the months of experience and learning she had gained. The day Njoni finally left the hospital was filled with emotions. Ahiana held her baby close, feeling the warmth, weight, and heartbeat that she had nurtured for months. The nurses and doctors offered congratulations, acknowledging the incredible progress and resilience of both mother and child. The hospital staff had witnessed something extraordinary. The combination of medical care, cultural grounding, and unwavering maternal devotion had created the conditions for a remarkable recovery. Ahiana's journey, once filled with fear and uncertainty, had transformed into a story of triumph, a living example of hope and determination. At home, the community continued to play a supportive role. Neighbors stopped by to offer gifts, advice, and encouragement. Elders visited to share prayers and blessings, reinforcing the spiritual foundation that had guided Ahiana through the hospital months. Family members offered practical help, assisting with daily routines, preparing meals, and providing companionship. Ahiana realized that raising a child, especially one who had started life with such fragility, was a shared endeavor. The love and support of the community, combined with her own dedication, had ensured Njoni's survival and growth. As Njoni developed, Ahiana marveled at her intelligence, curiosity, and resilience. She began to respond to her name, recognize familiar faces, and explore the world with cautious confidence. Each new milestone, rolling over, reaching for objects, making her first sounds, was celebrated as a victory. Ahiana understood that these achievements were the result of months of consistent care, love, and patience. She continued to document progress, noting the baby's growth, abilities, and small expressions of personality. Every day was a reminder of how far they had come and of the power of hope and perseverance. Ahiana also focused on nurturing Njoni's connection to her cultural roots. She introduced her to songs, stories, and traditions that had guided generations of Navajo mothers. She taught Njoni the names of sacred places, shared the meanings behind symbolic objects, and gently introduced lessons about resilience, courage, and the importance of community. Ahiana believed that grounding her child in these traditions would provide a source of strength and identity as she grew, reinforcing the lessons of patience, determination, and love that had carried them through the early months. The months at home also brought new challenges, but Ahiana faced them with confidence. Feeding schedules, sleep routines, and emotional responses required attention and adaptation. Occasionally, minor illnesses or disruptions tested her patience, but she approached these moments with calm and careful planning. She had learned that nurturing a child was not about perfection, but about consistency, observation, and love. Each challenge was an opportunity to strengthen the bond between mother and child, and to reinforce the lessons of resilience and care that had been so crucial in the hospital. As Njoni grew, she began to interact more actively with the world around her. Her eyes sparkled with curiosity, and she responded to voices, movement, and touch with increasing confidence. Ahiana felt a deep sense of pride watching her child explore and learn, knowing that each moment of growth was a testament to their shared journey. She marveled at how far they had come, from a fragile, premature infant to a vibrant, thriving baby. Every small gesture, every smile, and every milestone became a symbol of hope and proof of what love, dedication, and support could achieve. The story of Ahiana and Nijoni began to spread within the community. Families facing similar challenges drew inspiration from her experience, learning the importance of emotional connection, cultural grounding, and consistent care. Nurses and doctors shared her example, emphasizing the value of parental involvement and the remarkable impact of a mother's unwavering devotion. Ahiana had become more than a mother. She had become a symbol of hope, perseverance, and the extraordinary potential of human resilience. Ahiana continued to guide Nijoni's growth with love and attention. She taught her how to respond to her environment, how to express curiosity safely, and how to interact gently with others. She nurtured her child's spirit, ensuring that the lessons of patience, community, and resilience were embedded alongside physical growth. Every day was an opportunity to reinforce the values that had carried them through the most difficult months, and Ahiana embraced each moment with gratitude and determination. As the years passed, Nijoni continued to thrive. The fragile infant who had once struggled to survive had grown into a confident, strong, and curious child. She was a living testament to the power of love, care, and community support. Ahiana's dedication had not only ensured Nijoni's survival, but had also laid a foundation for a life full of potential, confidence, and joy. The lessons learned during those early months about perseverance, hope, and the power of cultural grounding would guide them both for years to come. Looking back, Ahiana could hardly believe how far they had come. The months of uncertainty, the long nights of worry, and the constant vigilance had been exhausting, yet they had created something extraordinary. She had learned that a mother's love is not measured by ease or convenience, but by the courage, patience, and commitment shown in moments of difficulty. Nijoni's survival was a testament not only to medical care, but to the power of hope, tradition, and the unwavering bond between a mother and her child. The story of Ahiana and Nijoni became an enduring source of inspiration in their community. Families who faced similar struggles saw in their journey a reminder that hope could flourish even in the darkest moments. Elders shared their experience during gatherings, emphasizing the importance of love, patience, and community support. The hospital staff continued to speak of Ahiana's dedication as an example for parents and caregivers, highlighting the profound impact of emotional involvement alongside medical care. Ahiana herself knew that the journey of motherhood was ongoing. Nijoni's growth would continue and new challenges would arise, but the lessons of those early months, resilience, patience, love, and the importance of community, would guide them. Ahiana felt gratitude for every person who had supported them, for the traditions that had offered comfort and guidance, and for the strength within herself that had allowed her to persevere. She understood that motherhood is not only about survival but about nurturing a life, shaping a future, and creating a foundation for hope and possibility. By the time Nijoni reached her first birthday, she was thriving physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Ahiana watched her baby laugh, crawl, and explore with confidence, feeling a profound sense of accomplishment and joy. The fragile infant who had once fought for survival had become a vibrant, strong child, a living testament to love, resilience, and determination. Ahiana's unwavering commitment had proven what many had once doubted, that even in the face of overwhelming odds, life could flourish when nurtured with care, patience, and devotion. Ahiana often reflected on the journey, recognizing the lessons she had learned about strength, love, and community. She knew that survival was not solely a matter of chance or medicine. It was a combination of care, dedication, and the unwavering belief in the potential of life. Nijoni's story was proof of this truth, A reminder that every child, no matter how fragile at the start, deserves love, hope, and the chance to thrive.